My name is Madison Blake. I'm 22 years old, and last week was supposed to be the proudest day of my life, graduation day. I wasn't just walking across the stage, I was the valedictorian of my entire class. I had worked years for this one moment, sacrificed sleep, social life, and even my mental health just to make it here. I woke up that morning nervous but excited. My parents, Laura and Richard Blake, had promised they wouldn't miss it. My sister Chloe was also graduating. She was giving a short speech as the student council president. When Chloe went on stage, my parents stood up, cheering, clapping, even recording her speech on their phones. I felt proud of her too. She did great. Then it was my turn. As my name was announced and I walked toward the podium, I noticed movement in the crowd. My parents were leaving. At first, I thought maybe they were stepping out for a call, but they didn't come back. I delivered my entire speech, the speech I had stayed up for 3 nights perfecting, with an empty ache in my chest. When I walked off stage, I checked my phone. One text from my mom. Sorry, we had to go. Chloe was tired. We'll celebrate later. No hug. No picture. No, we're proud of you. I stood there in my cap and gown, watching other parents hug their kids, take photos, cry happy tears. That was the exact moment I realized, no matter what I did, I would never be enough for them. And for the first time, I felt something break inside me. Growing up in the Blake household felt like living in 2 different worlds under the same roof. Chloe, my younger sister by 2 years, was the sun. Everything revolved around her. Her piano recitals, her dance competitions, her unique sense of humor. My parents would sit front row, cheering like she had just won an Olympic medal. I was the moon, quiet, hardworking, always trying to shine, but never quite bright enough for them to notice. I still remember being 8 years old, bringing home my first straight A report card. I was so proud I practically ran into the kitchen, waving the paper in my hand. Mom glanced at it, said, "Good job," and went right back to helping Chloe with a school art project. Dad barely looked up from his laptop. That was my childhood, trying to earn attention that never lasted more than 5 seconds. I joined soccer just to spend time with Dad, since he loved sports. He came to one game, stayed for half, then left because Chloe had a birthday party to attend. Even on birthdays, Chloe's gifts were thoughtful and big. A bike, a puppy, a trip to the water park. Mine, clothes that didn't fit, or a book I never asked for. I don't think my parents were cruel on purpose. They just always had a favorite. Chloe was bubbly, extroverted, the perfect daughter they bragged about to their friends. I was the quiet one, the overachiever, the one who got good grades but never made enough noise to be celebrated. So I started working harder, hoping one day they'd look at me the way they looked at her. Every spelling bee win, every science fair medal, every honor roll certificate. I thought, this will be it. This will make them proud. But their praise always went right back to Chloe. I grew up learning that love in my house had to be earned, and no matter how much I gave, it was never quite enough. High school became my personal battleground. I poured myself into academics, convinced that if I graduated at the top of my class, my parents would finally see me, not just as Chloe's sister, but as me. While my friends were out at football games or parties, I was at home, bent over textbooks, highlighter in hand. I took AP classes, volunteered at the library, and joined the debate team. I worked part-time at a coffee shop on weekends to save money for college applications, because Mom and Dad made it clear early on that scholarships are your responsibility. I remember nights when I'd sit on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m., trying not to cry too loudly while memorizing formulas for calculus. All the while, Chloe breezed through life, cheerleading, dating, posting cute pictures on Instagram, and getting praised for being so well-rounded. One time, I brought home a state science fair trophy. Dad looked impressed for 2 seconds, then said, "Chloe just got elected student council president." Guess who got the bigger cake that night? By senior year, I was exhausted, but determined. I applied for every scholarship I could find, wrote essay after essay, and when I got the news that I'd been named valedictorian, I cried. Not just because I was proud, but because I thought, finally, they can't ignore this. They'll have to be proud now. Graduation became my shining light at the end of the tunnel. I imagined my parents in the front row, smiling, clapping, maybe even tearing up while I gave my speech. I pictured them hugging me afterward, saying, "We're so proud of you, Madison." I held on to that fantasy through the worst nights of senior year when I was running on 3 hours of sleep and caffeine. Every sacrifice, every late-night panic attack, every missed party. It was all supposed to pay off on that one day. That day was supposed to prove I wasn't invisible. But instead, it proved the opposite. Graduation day was supposed to be my redemption. I had ironed my gown the night before, triple-checked my speech, even asked my best friend Lena to record it so I could send it to my grandparents later. When we got to the venue, my parents were all smiles, but only when Chloe was around. They kept asking her if she was ready, if she was nervous, if her speech was perfect. They barely asked me anything. When Chloe's name was called, Mom and Dad shot up from their seats, clapping so hard people turned to look. They recorded the whole thing, beaming as if she were the star of the entire graduation. Then it was my turn. Valedictorian, Madison Blake. The applause started, but I saw them. My parents, standing up, gathering their things and heading toward the exit. For a second, my throat closed up. I wanted to run after them, scream, "Stay! Just stay for me. This once." But instead, I swallowed hard, walked to the podium, and gave the speech I had written with my whole heart, my voice trembling but steady enough that no one would know I was breaking inside. When it was over, everyone stood, cheering, taking pictures. My phone buzzed. Mom's text, "Sorry, Mads. Chloe's not feeling well. We're taking her home. We'll do dinner another day." I didn't reply. After the ceremony, I walked outside into the cool evening air, while other students were wrapped in hugs, their parents crying proud tears. No one was waiting for me. I stood there alone in my cap and gown, holding my speech in one hand. And right then, something inside me shifted. I realized I couldn't keep chasing their love, so I made a silent promise to myself. After tonight, I wouldn't beg for their approval ever again. The next morning, I packed my bags. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't leave a note. I had already been accepted to a university 3 hours away, and instead of waiting until fall, I requested early housing approval for the summer session. I sold my old bike, donated half my clothes, and used the money I'd saved from my coffee shop job to pay the security deposit for a small studio apartment near campus. When I drove away from my hometown, I felt numb at first. Then, halfway down the highway, I started crying. Ugly, loud sobs that left me gasping for air. I wasn't just leaving my house. I was leaving years of trying, years of hoping they would see me, years of being the girl who never felt good enough. The first few weeks were rough. My apartment was tiny, barely big enough for a bed and desk. And I lived mostly on instant ramen. But slowly, things started to change. I made friends with my neighbor, Kayla, a fellow student who knocked on my door one night with leftover pizza. She became my first real friend outside of high school. I threw myself into classes and found a mentor in Professor Daniels, who told me, "You have a gift, Madison. Don't waste it hiding from the world." I got a part-time job at the campus library and loved the quiet peace of shelving books and helping students. Little by little, the heaviness in my chest started to lift. One night, I stood on my tiny balcony, watching the city lights twinkle, and felt something I hadn't felt in years: hope. I started to laugh again. I joined a book club. I began journaling, not for grades, but for myself. And somewhere along the way, I realized I didn't miss home. For the first time, I wasn't living for their approval. I was living for me. It took about 3 months before my parents noticed I had stopped coming home. At first, they just sent casual texts. "When are you visiting?" "Chloe misses you." I ignored them. Then came the guilt trips. "Your grandmother asks about you every day." "We don't understand why you're being so cold." I stayed silent. A few weeks later, Mom called crying, saying Dad wasn't feeling well and asking me to come home before it's too late. I panicked, almost packed a bag, but then I called Dad directly. He answered cheerful as ever, no sign of illness. It hit me. They were using scare tactics to drag me back. Then Chloe texted, "Look, Mom's just stressed." "She didn't mean to leave during your speech. Can't you just get over it?" That message stung more than I expected. She wasn't even apologizing. She was asking me to sweep it under the rug. I stared at my phone for a long time, then put it face down. I didn't respond. Instead, I focused on my new life, my classes, my job, my friends. Every ignored call, every unopened message made me feel lighter. My parents' version of love had always come with conditions. Be more like Chloe, be quieter, be grateful no matter how invisible you feel. But I wasn't that girl anymore. One night, Mom sent a long email saying the family looked bad because I wasn't home, that relatives were asking questions, and that I was hurting Chloe's feelings. I closed the email without finishing it, because for once, I wasn't going to let their guilt run my life. I wasn't their shadow anymore. I was finally standing in the light, my own light. It's been a year since graduation. Sometimes I still think about that moment, standing on stage, watching my parents walk away. But now, it doesn't hurt the same way, because that moment didn't break me. It set me free. I've built a life that's mine, one that isn't about chasing their approval. I have friends who show up for me, mentors who believe in me, and a sense of peace I never thought I'd find. Last month, I gave a speech again, this time at a campus event. The auditorium was full, and when I stepped off stage, my friends and professors hugged me, cheered for me, celebrated me. No one left halfway through. For years, I thought choosing myself would make me selfish, but now I know it was survival. I've learned that family isn't just the people who share your last name. Family is the people who see you, who clap for you even when no one else does, who stay through your hardest moments. My parents may never understand what they did to me that day, and that's okay. Because I finally understand that I am enough, with or without their approval. So if you're listening to this and you've ever felt invisible, ever begged someone to love you the way you deserve, take this as your sign. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to walk away from the people who make you feel small, because family is proven by love, not just blood. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stop waiting for someone to clap for you and start clapping for yourself.